Alright everyone, welcome to Soulscast, episode 9, the Bloodborne Bestiary. That's what we have it called right now. Maybe we'll call it something different once I get this edited together, but basically this is going to be a show about the enemies of Bloodborne, and maybe not necessarily bosses, because I think bosses deserve their own cast.
Yeah, I agree.
But okay, cool. I'm glad you agree.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't agree, that would be kind of a strange, awkward conflict we'd be having. We wouldn't really know how to go about the rest of the cast. Everyone would be feeling the tension.
Yeah, that's no good. We don't need that. Like
No. But anyway, I'm Adam Blue. You're Shane Norton.
Shane Norton drinking a giant beer. Sorry.
Oh, this time you got the beer, and
yeah, I just went and got it today.
What is it exactly?
It's a King Cobra. It's a 40. I was just going for cheap today. Although it's not the worst beer I've ever had, but
no, that's the best to do on a weekday.
Yeah.
I have a strawberry melon Pure Light Splash.
Yum.
This is
that actually sounds
water.
That sounds delicious, actually.
Yeah, it's just a hint of fruit flavor. So anyway, that's us. You can check the YouTube channel out, youtube.com/BlueGamer, or do you have your URL yet? We need to get that set up for you.
I have no idea.
For now, people, they search Shane Norton.
Yeah,
look for the beer profile picture. We'll figure out how to get your URL, so we can just say that from now on.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And I think that's it to start this off. I always like to kind of go into what we've been playing, especially if it's Souls related. And it doesn't have to be. I've been playing a lot of both Demon Souls and Dark Souls, but more Dark Souls. I got through in Orlando since the last time we had a cast. And that's the thing. Once I'm done with, and I talked about this in the last show, once I'm done with Blighttown, Sense Fortress, and in Orlando, the rest of the game is, I don't want to say it's pretty easy, but the rest of the game is not bad. So, because right now
it almost seems front-loaded, yeah.
Right, yeah, so I've gotten through Catacombs, Painted World, which was awesome. I decided not to fight the boss, because apparently that is, it's like, I kind of want to fight the boss, but I feel I might do it at the end, right before I beat the game.
Yep.
Just for now, I don't know what that will do lore-wise. We'll see, but it looks like it's pretty easy. I feel very powerful. I have a Claymore at 15, and I fought Sif, and I think Sif is pretty hard.
Yeah,
and I did it on my first try.
Nice.
I near the end of the Sif battle, I realized what I have to do, and it's the dumbest thing. Just have your shield up. Really, all you have to do is sometimes don't think, I have to run and attack. Just have your shield up, wait for the attacks. Okay, run in. And for the first time, I saw the limping you were talking about.
Yep. Very sad.
That is pretty sad.
Yeah, very sad.
Because I was waiting for an attack, and I'm like, what is Sif doing? And it was the limp, and I was like, dang. Oh, well, you're dead. No, but, I went through all that. Painted World, all of that. I beat both Hydras. I killed both Hydras, and it was easy. First try, just... it's like right now I'm really just getting everything done I can get done. I even beat the Asylum Demon? Not the first time, but the second time?
The Stray Demon?
Stray Demon.
Yeah.
I beat that no, that wasn't on my first try. But that was my first play. I didn't have to go, fuck this, and then come back later.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pain. But then again, near the end, I realized what I have to do. It's it's funny how it clicks sometimes and it's easy. But anyway, that could be another podcast. Where are you in Souls right now?
So
episode 370.
Yeah, right.
But that's with me. What have you been playing?
Well, besides the 50 games I mentioned last week, which I've sort of been playing on and off. I was listening to last week's podcast because after you put it up, I listened to it usually that same day just to see how it sounds, all that. And we were talking, I think, about, it was Dark Souls versus Dark Souls 2, so we talked a lot about both those games. And I was like, man, I really just want to play Dark Souls 2. So I, basically on a whim, I grabbed some games, some Wii and 3DS games that I never play, traded them into GameStop, and I got myself the Scholar of the First Sin, Dark Souls 2 PS4 edition.
Nice.
So I started that, and I've been playing that. I'm only about maybe 4 hours, a little more, and it is so much different than Bloodborne, which I had been playing heavily. So much different that I've been having the most difficult time. I feel like it's the first time I've ever played a Souls game, so I'm gradually making my way through that. I'm in like the beginning area. I beat Pursuer. I beat the Last Giant. I beat the Dragon Rider. So I think I just started in No Man's Wharf. So that's where I am. I will be uploading all my boss battles to my YouTube channel for this game. So look out for those. There's going to be like 40 of them, including DLC. So have content for a while. And
wait, did you happen to upload one of the Pursuer of you beating the Pursuer?
No, not yet. I'm going
okay.
to. I have that.
Okay. I'm curious to see how that went, because I think that's hard no matter what. Like,
when I played it on PS3, I didn't have a huge problem with him. I really like that boss. I think it's a great boss. It's really fun.
Yes,
I didn't have a problem with him on PS4. It took me probably a dozen tries, but I don't have the video up yet. Maybe I'll do it tonight. But
do you feel it's different than the regular version? Like that boss battle?
No, I think that boss battle is the same. In general,
okay.
It definitely looks better than the PS3 version, and I can tell the frame rate's better. And I know I just said a couple weeks ago I'm pretty bad at differentiating like the frame rates. It definitely looks better. It looks kind of more like Bloodborne. So
yeah, I think that's because with the PS4 and with especially a last generation game, like you're finally seeing that steady, 60 FPS that's normal on PC games.
Yeah.
And I think once you see that, then you're like, oh, yeah. So
no, it looks great, and I'm really excited to play it. I'll probably play some more tonight. I did restart Diablo 2 on my PC last night again,
cool.
Which is one of my maybe top 10 games of all time. So I just had the urge to play it, and so I installed it and played it. So that's it. So I'm still playing like a bunch of games. Yeah. I'm still playing Link's Awakening. I'm still playing Final Fantasy X. So. Got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's easy, with kids, and sometimes you don't want to be glued in front of the TV. Sometimes you're doing things. It's easier to have the handhelds.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I've been playing a lot of Blaze Blue on the PS Vita. It's a fighting game I really like, and other than that, actually go for some non-Souls stuff. I was playing that new Tembo, the Badass Elephant game.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Quick look up. Yeah, there's a quick look on the YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to check that out. I haven't had time, but I'm going to.
Yeah, it's made by the Pokemon people.
Oh,
which is weird.
Okay.
And published by Sega. That's strange. So
nice.
That and then was that it? For some reason, I was thinking there was something else. You
played Godzilla, right?
I did play Godzilla. There's actually a review up on the Blue Gamer page. That game's
I liked it.
Actually, it's not bad. It's just not amazing. It's just kind of fun. But I also played this game at QuakeCon. I was at QuakeCon this weekend called Bombshell. I don't know when it comes out. This fall, early next year. It looks like it seems like it's a Diablo-style game, action RPG, but it also could be a twin-stick shooter because you shoot. So I'd have to play it with a controller first to determine that.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. I have a little bit of impressions up on bluegamer.net. I did a little quick article this morning, so if you guys want to check that out.
Great.
But let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Let's get to the Bloodborne Bestiary. This was kind of sparked, we talked during the week, what do we want to talk about? And I forget what sparked it exactly, but I found someone on Reddit posted this Bloodborne Bestiary. I wish I could give them credit. Unfortunately, I forgot the link, but yeah, someone took up close screenshots of the enemies in game, of every enemy, nearly every enemy. And compared to the guide, which I have, the guide just has the render that's made, and they just post it there. But having the in-game screenshots look great, and so I think it would be good to cover. Me and you both are fresh off Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Fresh on it, you could say. We jump in that every once in a while, even playing other games. But let's start with the first, the most annoying enemies of Bloodborne. Let's go with that. What is Shane for you the most annoying enemy in Bloodborne?
Yeah, that's a good question because there's a pretty decent amount. Like I said, I don't know if this is going to be in the podcast, but I did look at that link you sent me, which is awesome because the pictures are real up close, they're real detailed, very, very cool.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Bloodborne wiki just to get a nice list of all the enemies, and just scrolling through, there's lots of them that I find annoying and difficult. I wrote down 3 here. So I'll try to go over them kind of quickly, but I'll start with the Murgo's Chief Attendant, which is you find them in I think just the Nightmare of Mensis. They're like these kind of like big. They almost look like statues. They have like these weird faces. They're like all like one color, like this really gray color. And there's like really small ones, and then there's like the big ones.
And they seem harmless at first.
Yeah, they look.
You get right inside the mansion, the building of I don't know what that. After the rock throwers, right when you get inside.
Yes, exactly.
And you see these little guys walking around. And it's like, what is this?
The little ones.
But there's the little ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the little ones aren't too bad. Although they can still hit you good, and they can swarm you. But they're not too bad. But then there might only be 2, at least in that area. There's only 2 of the big ones. But I find them to be pretty difficult. I think they hit hard, and they have a pretty good amount of health. And I usually have a tough time with them, even though they're only found in this one area. And after my first playthrough, I usually just run past them. When I don't run past them, my general strategy is just with the stake driver to try to dodge through the attacks, and then wait for my chances to attack, and do that whole thing. But those guys I find pretty annoying.
Yeah. No, I remember. I think I was just running away from one to the elevator. There's a lift there.
Yeah.
And thinking I would just get away, and no, his swing hit me and killed me. They're a pain in the ass. Get away.
Nope. Yeah. Do you want to take turns with enemies here, or you want me to just list all mine first?
Go with yours. Go with yours first.
Okay.
Then I'll pretty much because I'm you're a note taker, so
yes.
So for everyone out there, we have this our Soulscast notes, and he has some very good detailed notes, and it really has some good points. By you going through this stuff, it then reminds me of what to talk about.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll let you just go ahead with that.
All right, then my second one is the parasitic leeches, which are found in a couple different areas, but I remember them really from all the swampy areas of the Nightmare of Mensis. They're like big giant white leeches, and I mean I said giant relative to most of the other monsters, and relative to you, they're pretty small, but they're fast. They hit pretty hard for really kind of small enemies, and they're so small that it's hard to really hit them. I find it's hard even sometimes to lock onto them.
Yes, exactly.
But my strategy to fight them is definitely lock on and just kind of take your time, because I've had many times where I run in and just swing wildly thinking, oh, they're small, they only take 2 hits to kill, so I'll just swing and kill them, and I get ganged up by 3 or 4 of them, and they'll kill you real fast. So I basically, just lock onto them and try to keep them in front of you. Obviously, don't get ganged up by them. That doesn't help anything.
Yeah, and so that's where I had the most problem with them, was in actually Canehurst. So before, it's outside before you go in either the right side or the left side inside the castle. You can go down in a little area, I don't know, and there's a whole bunch of them down there, and some of them will fall on you or jump at you.
Yeah.
And you're right, they can gang up on you. The best strategy is to take your time and try to work on. I remember dying over and over at that. This, like you were saying, they're giant leeches, but they're small compared to all the other enemies, and they're the biggest problem.
They might even be the smallest enemies in the game. But they're hard to fight because they're so small and they're so fast, and they can gang up on you. I think in the Nightmare they also inhabit some of those werewolf-looking beast guys, and when you kill them, they jump out of their chest. So that's kind of annoying too. But
that's right. Yeah, they are in Yeah, they are Nightmare Mensis, which I think has to do with the lore of why they're actually inside. Those things are called the Lorian Silver Beast.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, luckily I have the guide right here in front of me, so I can kind of go through that. Okay, and then your next one is actually one that I thought up too.
My next one, and basically my final one, is an enemy that I assume 100% or 99% of Bloodborne players absolutely hate. And I didn't know their real name until just, I think, today. They're called Winter Lanterns, but they're the big, giant, like, brain head guys that just frenzy you to death in the nightmare areas. And, they're annoying because frenzy sucks anyway, and they hit you with frenzy. If you get inflicted with frenzy, it takes off, like, I don't know, 80% of your health. And then, if you're in an area with them, the frenzy meter will just start up again, so you better be able to heal and use sedatives real fast. Like the run to get the blood rock, you have to run through an area that has like a bridge that has one of them, and then there's another bridge that has, I think, two of them, and then you have to go down a ladder, and there might be like a couple more down there. So that's a huge pain to get. But those guys are probably the worst enemies in the game. They're very annoying. They're not too hard to kill. I find that if I just run up to them and hit them, they only take a couple hits to kill.
Right. But they're the ones where, like, initially, when you first come across them, it's like, what the heck? And on one hand, you want to take your time, because you kind of want to hide out and get them at the right time. But on the other hand, taking your time allows them to do one of their attacks, which I think they can reach out for you and grab you.
I think so.
And pull you in, or they, like, lunge at you and they can pull you in. And that's definitely an annoying one. A fun fact, so if you look closely, and this has always been all over the internet, but if you look closely at the Winter Lantern, it's actually the doll outfit.
Is it really?
Like, it's wearing, yeah. And even though it looks like a brain, and this actually goes with the big brain in Nightmare Mensis, it's really just a ball of messengers with giant eyeballs. Oh. So it's like not really a brain.
Okay.
It's a bunch of messengers. Which then I was trying to do this and I couldn't figure it out before this show is what do the messengers mean? Like, what are they?
Uh-huh.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, and I think that's something that would have been good for me to find, but it makes me think about the game more, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. I like the idea of these enemies are more thought of more than just to fight. They're part of the lore, But okay, so anyway, I wanted to go with I think there's just a couple that I had because yours are pretty much, except for Murgo's Chief Attendant. That's a good one. I didn't even think about that, but the other ones I thought of as well. Here's one. The Brain Sucker.
Yep.
Which, it's the robed thing that has...
I thought about adding that, and I'm going to talk about him a little later.
Okay.
Yeah, he sucks.
Cool. Well, because why this guy sucks is, like, he has a projectile attack. It's like some sort of energy beam ball. I forget what it is exactly. I'm looking at... Dark Blast, fire long range, arcane damage blast.
Yeah, and it freezes you in your spot.
Right, and then they can do a thing where they grab you, and then they suck your life out. They can kill you if you don't have a lot of health. You're dead, and it also takes away insight.
Yep, it sure does.
Which that's interesting. What does that mean? Because I think it's good to like not have insight. It kind of is if you think about your character for real, like. By having all this insight, you're seeing the horrors that could kill you.
Yeah.
So I always think that's interesting. What's the point of them stealing the insight? But you do find them in Upper Cathedral Ward where they're all trying to see and connect with everything. Anyway, that's that lore part we'll get to later. And the only other one that... It's funny because I call it annoying because this enemy you can still kill easy later on, but it's just the weapon. Let's see, it's the Large Huntsman. So this is, I think you first come across a Large Huntsman in Central Yharnam when you're like jumping down to the sewers area, like when you cross the bridge the first time, but you don't go on the bridge. You kind of instead of fighting the two werewolves, You go across the bridge, you can hit the debris and go back behind and jump down. And there's a little sewers. So the large huntsmen, and there's a couple of them, they have like a spear or like a giant saw blade or like a plow. So it's like, or plow. So it's like they're just large, lanky, with long range attacks. And so when I was first playing, these guys would kill. Oh, you know, there's one right before getting to Father Gascoigne. One or two.
Oh, okay, all right.
Right before Father Gascoigne. Yeah. So these guys, they take a lot of health.
Yeah, they're way harder. They're way harder than the regular huntsmen. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, even later on in the game, like, you might come across one or two of them, and, you know, you've got more health, it's not as hard, but when they get you, they really get you.
Yeah.
And I just, early in the game, I just know the visual cue of just a tall, lankier dude with a huge weapon. Just, very difficult.
No, yeah, that's a good point. Those guys, like, the regular huntsmen throughout the first part of the game, I mean, they can kill you, but they're not that hard. They're like 2 hits, they're dead. But then you find these guys, and they're like, compared to the regular huntsmen, way harder. That's a good point. I forgot about those guys.
And then there are some other enemies in the game that are annoying if you allow them to be. And this would be the church servant. So this is right outside of fighting Vicar Amelia. What is that? The cathedral?
Yeah, Cathedral Ward. Oh, yeah, yep. All right.
So, yeah, it's the church servant. So it looks like one of those church guys you see, but he's holding the crucifix. And
with frenzy, right?
Yeah. See, that's what makes it annoying. Because and in the way they even use it, it's like a quick, long range stab with that.
It's so fast. I don't know if I've ever successfully dodged it.
And that's the thing. So, like, these enemies are the type of enemies where, like, you know, late game, sure, you're going by them, whatever, if you even need to go that way. But I think you kind of do if you want to do that one NPC fight. But anyway, they might not even be there at that point. But anyway, they are just one that will just, if you're not careful, they will really just ruin your day because they'll hit you with a frenzy, and then your health is down, and there's supposed to be a boss battle right there. So if you wanted to get to the boss, you know, you might have just screwed yourself. Okay, so for annoying enemies, I think we touched on what I think is most annoying. What you think?
I do actually have one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick.
Yeah.
The just all the various NPC hunters you find throughout the game that you have to fight. I find them maybe to be the most irritating enemies in the game. I want to differentiate them a little bit from all the other regular enemies because they're a little more special. They're more unique.
It's like AI added to like a PvP. Scenario.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you have to fight them a few times throughout the game, a couple different ones, and they have boatloads of HP, just so much health, it's ridiculous. And their attacks hurt you a lot, even like their magic attacks, the hunter tool attacks, which usually sucks if you try to use them, but for them, you know, they are amazing. And the fact that I don't know this for certain, but they seem to have infinite like Quicksilver bullets. They can just shoot their gun nonstop, just never ever stop.
I believe that because they use it more than I think I even use it when I'm doing a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you fight one, and you know, if the fight could last a couple minutes, and they've shot their gun probably 35 times. So the hunters in general, I really dislike fighting them, and I think they're like the worst enemies in the game. Like, I don't want to say they're broken because that sounds kind of lame, but
you have to have a different mindset. This is not like you're not setting yourself up to fight an enemy. It's more like you're.
It almost is like PvP.
Yeah, it pretty much is. I mean, you know, later on in the game you can figure out. And I was trying to look through here to find the names of them specifically because there's when you're in Unseen Village, there's the point from one. Not bonfire, one lamp before you go out and do all that crap before you get to the boss, Chaos Reborn, I think it is. Yeah. That you fight 3 of them, right?
Yes.
Is it 3?
Yes, there's 3 of them, and that's like the hardest part in the whole game.
When you come across that, the first time you come across that, it's Okay, here we go. Hunter enemies. There's a whole list of them. They're just considered the Yahar Ghul Hunter. Yeah, they don't have any special names. Yahar Ghul Hunter. But yeah, that part will get you because you'll most likely die that first time, and then you're like, crap. Now I got to go through again, and there's that Bell Maiden.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you kill the Bell Maiden, that's it, right? Like you kill the Bell Maiden and it doesn't respawn.
No, that Bell Maiden that Bell Maiden does respawn. So every
Okay.
time you get killed by those 3 hunters, you have to go through, kill the Bell Maiden, and then kill. There's 2 dogs. There's 1 hunter that's like up on a ledge, and then there's like 2 more regular ones plus a big guy, and then another regular one a little farther down, and then you run into I think it's like a big church where there's the 3 hunters.
Yep.
And on my very first playthrough, I fought and killed them. I kind of cheesed them.
That's how you gotta do it. I ran all the way back to the lamp, and they won't go through that door.
Yeah, I did something similar. I kind of cheesed them so I could fight them one-on-one, kill them, but on my second playthrough, on my New Game Plus, I didn't. And then my wife and I had a game that we played together, and we didn't bother because they're just so annoying, and it's just not fun to fight them. Not fun to fight at all.
In my opinion, it is fun to fight, but I kind of like that kind of stressful.
Yeah.
What kills me? Just I don't know if there's a problem with me, but anyway, let's move on. So best enemy designs. So I mean, to be honest, every enemy has an awesome design. I don't think there's one enemy I could look at and be like, well, it looks like they just kind of threw an enemy design together. It really looks like they took their time with everything. Again, let's have you go first and go through yours and see if I have some in my head. And we'll see what you.
Sure. I'm gonna kind of play off what you just said. My preface is all the enemies look great. I think they were all well designed. Nothing was lazy. Every enemy, I feel, really had a lot of care put into them, and they all look really cool. And that's really apparent when you look at that link with the close-up in-game pictures. You can really see the cool details in a lot of them. So, and
let me say real quick, that's a really good thing I like, because a lot of times in these games, like it's really hard to make out what an enemy looks like because you're trying so hard to kill it, and it's dark on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
So being able to see that, you could see all the care they really put into the design, and it's good to appreciate that.
No, yeah, it really is. So even like the huntsman enemies, like the like town folk basically look great. And I will say, playing Dark Souls 2 again, some of those enemies at the beginning, like the normal like soldier like undead enemies, they're pretty boring. They're just guys with armor basically, and they have spears or swords. So that's kind of boring. I don't think Bloodborne has any of that, even though my notes I wrote the word boring. I might want to revise that. There's
which one was that?
I wrote at the very beginning. I said there's a lot of very similar and kind of boring enemies. That's a little wrong.
Well, okay, so I can almost see what you're saying. So you got the huntsmen that go on forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of them,
especially in the beginning. But what's cool is, and we'll get this into the other part, they actually have a lot of good variations of that singular enemy when it comes to both the weapons and the way they look. Plus, it's cool, and we'll talk about this in lore, how they're kind of like stage 1.
Yeah.
Of the rest of the game. So it's kind of a good build up. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's cool. So, looking through that link with the detailed pictures, I noticed that a lot of the enemies are like the huntsman or like the big giant huntsman or whatever. So, in that aspect, there's a lot of very similar enemies, but there's nothing lazy. Everything looks awesome. But I will get into a few of my favorites, starting with the man-eater boars in the Nightmare. The ones that have like I don't know, a dozen eyes on their face, or probably more.
Yes.
They have all the eyes. I think it's awesome. And I like the regular man-eater boars. When I first played through the game, the first couple hours, it was my favorite enemy because it was just so different. It was like a big giant pig, but it was very detailed. It looked really cool. It looked really menacing. Yes. It was, they were very pissed off. But then the Nightmare ones, I think, are just even better because it turns that aesthetic on its head. And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about is kind of similar. Throughout the regular game, there's lots of like dogs, which is a staple in all the Souls games, and there's a lot of like big birds that kind of like sit on the ground, like those big black birds. I think they're called carrion birds, and they're easy, but they're annoying. When you get to the nightmare, their heads are switched around, and all the dogs have the bird heads, and all the birds have dog heads, and I don't know if this is true, but it looks like they're kind of like sewn on. And I think this is just an amazing detail. I think it's my favorite subtle little thing of the entire game. I did notice it in my first playthrough, and I was just like blown away. Like, this is some next level stuff. So,
I'm trying to think.
Is it in the book?
Called. It is. I remember looking at that, but I.
Well, see, it's funny because in that link you sent me. Which we should have it in the YouTube, or not the YouTube, but we should have that link somewhere because it's a great link. In that bestiary, it shows them, but in this Bloodborne wiki I'm looking at, which is bloodborne.wiki.fextralife, I don't think it has them listed, but
Okay, so in this book, in the strategy guide, it actually lists it as just a variation. So, not that it's a separate enemy. So, Carrion Crow is the name. Yeah, and they don't list it as a separate...
Because they're not different enemies. They're exactly the same. They're still easy to kill. They're still kind of a little bit annoying. But just the way they look, it's awesome. I like that kind of stuff. Yeah. It really sets up the whole, it really helps the nightmare feel.
Yes, it really does. Yep.
And I will say, the winter lanterns we just talked about, even though they're not brains, apparently. I think they look great. Very, very cool looking. Very creepy, very, messed up.
Mysterious.
Mysterious. Everything in the nightmare is pretty, messed up. And,
yeah, they did a good job with that.
I agree. They're very reminiscent of enemies from Demon Souls, actually. They're called Mind Flayers. And they're essentially guys that kind of have, these almost octopus-like heads. I don't know if you've been to the Tower of Latre yet. It's
no, I'm not looking forward to octopus heads, though. I can already say that.
No, I
haven't been there yet. No.
The very first time you play the game, they're very, very tough enemies. As you get experience fighting them, they're not that bad. But these winter lanterns remind me of them, so that's cool. All right, in the lecture building, you find the scholars. They're called, I guess, and they're kind of they're basically, they look kind of like college graduates or college people on their day of graduation. They have what are those hats called? The
I wouldn't know. I never got one.
Is that? I didn't go to college. Hold on. What are those college hats? Psst, Sandra. My wife's not listening. That's fine.
A graduation cap.
Yeah, the graduation cap.
I'm sure there's a more technical term for that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just said smorgasbord, so just disregard everything. I am drinking a giant beer here.
Okay. That's okay.
Shit, what was I saying? So, I think they're really cool looking. They're unexpected because they're almost silly because they have a graduating robe on and they have the cap on. And and they have this really pained face. They have a long face, a long mouth. So they're not expected. But I think they're really cool anyway.
Yeah, and there's always a reason for the way they look, and that's one I didn't look up, but I'm really curious on that because what's the deal with that enemy? And it is an optional area, right? Is that an optional area?
No, I don't think it is.
You have to go through that area. That's how you have to get to.
Yeah, that's how you get to the Nightmare Frontier, I think, right?
That's right.
So it's not optional, but it's really short. If you just run through it, I mean, you can be through the area in 30 seconds.
Well, because Nightmare Frontier is optional, but I think
it is.
You have to go upstairs, and does that take you to?
Upstairs is Nightmare of Mensis, I think, which is not optional, but downstairs is Nightmare Frontier, which will end up bringing you to the Amygdala battle.
Yeah,
which is optional as well. But so I'll say that finally, 2 more things I'll hit on quickly. All the various snake enemies in the Forbidden Woods, I think they look great.
Yeah.
And they're kind of scary.
Yeah.
You know, they're scary.
Scary.
There's like
even
the big
even that big nest of them.
Yeah, the big big nest. The little ones are cool. Yeah, but the first time I saw the big one, I was like, wow, that's really, really cool.
Dude, even over-leveled, I just run past them. It's like...
it's a pain in the ass. And, damn, you know what? Those guys that have, like the 20 snakes shooting out of their heads, but they have regular bodies, I should have included them in the annoying enemies, because they're one enemy that, man, I really just have a very hard time killing. Because, all this...
that reach.
Yeah, they have a long reach, and the snakes can reach in every direction, so you can't just, you can't just dodge around to their back, because the snake can still hit you. So, but anyway, those guys look great. And finally, I'll mention, it's not a true enemy, because it doesn't attack you, but that brain of Mensis that you find, which I guess maybe is not a brain. I think
it's apparently a whole bunch of messengers.
Looks fucking awesome. It's maybe the coolest looking thing in the whole game. You know, it has all the eyeballs. And the fact that you fight it in this dark, void basically where you can't see anything else, it adds a very creepy air to, that whole area, which is supposed to be creepy and scary anyway. So that's what I have for my enemy designs.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So for mine, I'll jump around a little bit here. So there's at the bottom of, is it Cathedral Ward? I forget where you go for this. The bottom of, I don't know, there's that beast-possessed soul is what it's called. It's basically a giant beast, but it's the only place in the game this thing's at. And the reason I like it is because it's very demonic. I like the horns it has on its head. Very scary looking one. Yeah, the bottom of the Healing Church workshop. Okay, and it's in the Chalice dungeons too, so...
Yeah, it's a boss in the Chalice dungeons. It's cool. I like all those really long, lanky kind of enemies. I just think that's a cool aesthetic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when they're tall, they're like that, and this thing's got those ram horns. Another enemy I like is the Hunting Dog, which is in, I'm always saying, I think it's, but, I mean, I have the information right here, in Hemwick Charnel Lane.
Yes.
These are the dogs that have, spikes and crap all over them. And what's cool is, when I first saw Bloodborne in the box art, I get a very, if you never saw the movie... Brotherhood of the Wolf vibe. I don't know if you saw the movie Brotherhood of the Wolf, have you?
I haven't yet. I want to, and it's been on my list forever, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, yeah. But they've got something like that going on in there. So not only does the look of the character remind me of Brotherhood of the Wolf, but that whole idea with actually I don't want to say too much if you haven't seen it, because that's actually a central plot element. So,
okay.
That, and then one of the creepiest things that I like is the Cramped Casket, is what it's called.
Oh, so that thing is awesome.
Yeah, so this is in Yahar Ghul, right before you fight Chaos Reborn, which I hope I'm getting the names right. And I'm actually proud of myself.
I think it's
for
the One Reborn.
The One Reborn.
What are you talking about?
There. What's Chaos Reborn? Is that something from another Souls game, probably?
Bed of Chaos?
I'll have to look that up.
Maybe. I don't know.
But anyway, these things are basically a bunch of bodies that are were cramped in a casket. Oh, Chaos Reborn is a game on Steam. And I actually, okay.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, no, it's actually a game on Steam I have. That's crazy.
But anyway, Chaos Reborn is a better name
so
than One Reborn, so.
Yeah. No, but the Cramped Casket, so it's basically a whole bunch of bodies, I guess they were cramped in a casket and they couldn't fit, and they're all just fused together, and they're trying to crawl and drag the casket. Now, they have projectiles, and isn't it just a spear or something?
I think well, I only really know
rotting spear, launches a spear of bone.
Is that what it is, really? I thought it was blood.
It says rotting spear, so it's possible as it's throwing it, pieces of it are coming apart.
Okay.
But that's so they look cool, and I would actually even say they're an annoying enemy because those spears come out of
Yes.
nowhere and they're scary and you don't want to go up to them.
Very annoying.
But that I think is a cool design too. I just really like how morbid and scary it is, and I'd even say the church servants are a cool design because it's almost innocent because they're kind of dressed dapperish. But
now,
they are
those guys like wearing masks, or is that their face? Because I always thought that it almost looks like they're wearing like the Scream mask.
No, that's what it looks like. But they also look like the scholars, in a way.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually true. If you just elongate the face a tiny bit, then I never noticed that. But that's a great point. I'm looking at one right now on the wiki.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one thing about the strategy guide, and it doesn't. There's no like official explanation on a lot of these things.
Yeah.
But they might all come from the same type of thing, It's very interesting, and I'm even looking at the lantern a church servant is holding, and it's just covered in eyes.
Oh, wow.
Realize that. Yeah, a lot of cool little stuff. So, okay. So, yeah, getting to that. So, this next part is these enemies. What's really cool about all of the Souls games, and it's really in Bloodborne, every gameplay element, from design to story to gameplay, everything is about the lore. Like everything. It goes from insight, like insight is something you gain so you can buy things, but the more you have, you go mad. But that's a whole thing about, the Lovecraft theme of going mad. So these enemies, I'll let you go ahead and start if you want to on basically enemies that best represent their respective lore, or the lore in general.
Yeah, sure. I can give it a go here. I've said this probably, 3 or 4 times in the podcast, and I know it's just me being lazy. I don't know all of the lore yet. I haven't read up on it. I know certain things about it. I know.
But see, you probably know enough, because to be honest, all this detail and all this stuff is all fan speculation.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's true.
A lot of times, I personally, I'm one of those types that, it's fun to do fan speculation, but I always like to really go by, well, they never really said it.
Yeah.
So that's that whole thing. That's why sometimes I don't try to memorize fan speculation, because I kind of like the idea of the mystery.
No, that's what I really like about all these games, is they're very mysterious, and a lot of what is just fans piecing together things from item descriptions, from little bits of dialogue, from even things like where items and where like dead bodies are found in the game can contribute to the lore. So, all that stuff is great. Mm-hmm. And I will say, I think compared to the other 3 games, that this game, you're right, everything seems to be centered on lore. Like, even it seems like the smallest detail, like the eyeballs. Eyeballs are a very big theme in the game, and everything's got eyeballs, or people don't have eyeballs because that's, you see with the eyes in your mind. And, that's a great segue. The Brain of Mensis, I'm going to go back to him for a bit. I don't know the lore entirely, but the fact that it's just a huge, not a brain, I guess, but kind of looks like a brain a little bit, and it's got eyeballs all on it, and that fits nicely in with with a story that deals heavily with, people seeing things with the eyes in their mind, not with the eyes, on their face, like seeing this otherworldly knowledge that you can't see because you need the insight for it. And there's so many, I know there's so many characters in the game that just don't have eyes because they've either carved out their eyes because they want to see with the eyes in their mind. So, all that stuff I think is fascinating.
And then you got the witches the witches that collect eyes.
And exactly.
Then the pebble you throw it looks like an eye.
Yeah,
which is
great. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. So I think that Brain of Mensis, which is I believe what it's called on the wiki at least. So that's just what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Oops.
Yeah. So I think that's a great. Besides the fact that it looks badass as all get out, it looks it feeds into that lore more, because apparently it's a legitimate great one, which is another big thing. That's more like the Lovecraft Great Ones kind of stuff. So that's all really cool. So I really like that. Obviously, any of the beasts that you find throughout the whole game are, they're pretty steeped in the lore, because all the beasts, I believe, were, former hunters and former people.
Right.
So, you're just killing people that turned, which is, kind of puts a shitty look on the whole game.
Right, but there's like the different stages. So like we were talking about when you first start in Central Yarnum, there's like they're just furry humans, They just have a little bit of hair on them. And then when you're on the and then Scourge Beast is what it's called. Okay, so when you're on the bridge in Central Yarnum, before you would get to Cleric Beast, the werewolves, or at the beginning of the game, it's not a werewolf, it's called a Scourge Beast. That is the next step, or further along, and then when you're in Old Yarnum, it looks like there's guys that are kind of like wrapped up, because they're people in the middle of that transformation, but they were like, I guess, seeking medical attention. And so they're kind of like wrapped up because they're trying to get some healing, because it's basically bad blood. The blood is turning people into beasts for whatever reason.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a good point. That's why I was saying early enemies don't seem like they're just thrown in there as just enemies to fight. They deal with
they're definitely not. Yeah, they're definitely not. And that's a little different compared to even like even Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. The beginnings of both those games, even Demon Souls, really, the beginning of all three of those games, you're fighting like the undead dredgelings, the undead, they're just soldiers that have died, and they have their armor, and which does tie into the lore, but it doesn't tie in as heavily as this Bloodborne stuff, where it's
because it's designed like even if it's a 2-armed, 2-legged humanoid. Like, there's design that can, like, mold, like, what does that mean, And, Bloodborne really did that,
I will say, I kind of mentioned it already, all of the, like, nightmare versions of normal enemies you find in the nightmare areas, I think they're great. I think they add, maybe this isn't necessarily lore, but they just add to the feel of the nightmare, and,
I think you're right.
You see dogs with bird heads. You see the pigs that have like 20 different eyes. The Lauren silver beasts have the leeches jumping out of them, and there's probably others. That's just what I remember. But that that adds to the oppressive, scary, nightmarish feel of the nightmare.
Because if someone's playing through the game, they don't necessarily, if they're not really paying attention, which that was me at first. It doesn't matter if you're in Central Yarnum or Nightmare Frontier. Like, I'm not thinking, one place is a reality and one place is a nightmare. You don't think that in your head.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm just going into like a new place where I'm seeing like these modified creatures that are different, but there's a reason for that more than just you're in a new area. So I think that goes into the lore thing. Right, they really designed to reflect where they were. Nightmare in Mensis does it a lot more. Frontier.
I have one final thing. The brain suckers, which we talked about briefly. I didn't know much about them. I know that they were super annoying. And a brief side note on them: my very first playthrough, when the game first came out, the idea of insight, people didn't know exactly what it was. All you knew was that the more insight you had, like, enemies got harder, and, like, you could see all these other things. And it turned out that insight isn't that important to the game mechanics. But as I was going through that Upper Cathedral Ward, I think it is, with all the brain suckers, every time they attack you with that sucking attack, it takes out 2 of your insight. So I remember going there with, I think, 38 insight. And by the time I finished, I had 0. They sucked all of it out.
Oh, my God.
And I remember being so mad about that. In retrospect, it wasn't a huge deal, but I was very annoyed by that.
What's funny, I remember I was going ahead and selling my using my insight, like cashing it in, because it was like, I think, and I didn't know this, the witch boss, the Hemwick witch boss. I guess if you have like 0 insight, she won't spawn those like mad bad guys, whatever they're called.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of
that makes it way easier.
Yeah. No, so for me, Yeah, I guess did you get all yours?
Well, there was just one more thing I wanted to say about the brain suckers. Really, I didn't know about the lore, but from what I just read on the wiki, it has like a little description of the enemies. They, according to this wiki, they were driven mad by wisdom not of this world. So, meaning this otherworldly, eldritch, horror, cosmic wisdom, knowledge. So they got so much of it that they went crazy, and now they're trying to suck out the knowledge of other people to continue doing that, which is, I assume, why they suck out your insight, which is something you had even actually just asked a little while ago in the podcast. So,
yeah,
my basic guess is that, with the information that they were driven mad by the wisdom not of this world, and they need to, they suck all your insight, and they're called brain suckers. It sounds like that even though they've been driven mad, the only thing that fuels them is getting this knowledge of these great ones, these gods, these whatever they are that normal people can't even see because they don't have the insight. So suck out the insight, they can maybe gain more knowledge, and who knows what can happen after that. But I think that's a really, really cool bit of lore that I didn't even know about until just, I don't know, 45 minutes ago.
Well, no, that's interesting because, I guess going mad obviously does things different for different people. You're finding madman's knowledge everywhere. That's usually people that died from going mad. You, as a hunter, and the other hunters, are able to see these things and gain a lot of insight and not really go mad.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe there's these brain suckers are the effect on them, just randomly. They're ones that they went mad, but like a drug for more insight. Yeah. It's like a drug. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, for me, the thing that I think is one of the most amazing enemies in the game that, I already knew the direction the game was going by midway through, but once I saw the Celestial Emissary, which is the aliens, you're like, okay, so what more is happening here? So you first see them, if you happen to go there, in the Forbidden Woods, which is weird that they're in there. It's like, why are they in there? Although that's the path to Bergenworth. So I still don't get that. But then you see them, mainly in Upper Cathedral Ward, because there's the boss battle where you're fighting the Celestial Emissary, so the aliens. So it's like, when you see any other boss in the game, you might as well say, okay, they're just monsters. Yeah. Crazy beasts. But the Celestial Emissaries kind of help with the game to get you to think, okay, there's more of some sort of space thing going on here. If we're seeing aliens, then it is possible that these other crazy boss and creatures we're fighting are aliens too. It has kind of a cosmic element, which is kind of the whole Lovecraft thing in the first place. I think to me, it's more than just cool. When you see the Celestial Emissary, it's like this game has elevated beyond, when it comes to story, what it could be. But again, the game just still stays a little, cryptic when it comes to that. So as much as I would want answers to that,
it's
they're always keeping it open for interpretation for the fans.
Really. On that Celestial Emissary specifically, on my first playthrough, I'm generally when I play Souls games, especially my very first playthrough, I'm not really concerned about lore. I'm not concerned about story. My first playthrough is going through, beating it, trying to check everything out. It's after that maybe I'll start reading up about it. I'll start paying attention to the game world more. When I first encountered the Celestial Emissary enemies on my very first playthrough, I didn't fully understand that they were actually aliens. I thought they were like this. I thought aliens, but I also thought like mushroom, weird kind of hybrid kind of thing. So I was like, well, these weird.
Oh, because you're in the forest. So that would make sense.
I did find them in the forest at first. So I was like, okay, these are they kind of like mushrooms. They look like aliens a little bit, but there was only 2 or 3 of them there. So I was like, whatever. As I progressed, I found the way to the Celestial Emissary battle, the boss battle, and when I got there and the name popped up on the screen, Celestial Emissary, I was like, okay, these are definitely aliens, and I'm not, I'm not going crazy. So this is the first Souls game that, it goes outside of strict, fantasy, like dragons and, demons and beasts and all that kind of stuff. This is going into outer space. There's aliens, which is awesome, which is apparently maybe the way they're going to take the series after Dark Souls 3. That's a whole other podcast anyway. So, I was, my mind was a little bit blown because it was quite a revelation, and it really ties into the lore too.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of it is about trying to recreate or get in touch with these great ones, or whatever it may be. So a lot of these enemies you see that have eyes or don't have eyes, like the Winter Lantern, how we talked about, how they're just a bunch of eyes with the messengers. But then but in my opinion, I really do think the intention is that every enemy has a meaning behind it. We just
probably
maybe don't know, or it's open for interpretation. One creature I can never figure out is it's called the fluorescent flower. So this is the big, long, tendrily thingy that shoots electricity. Unless that is another alien style.
It looks like an alien
being. Yeah. But yeah, and you find it at Bergenworth, where there's Willem, who has no eyes, and he's sitting there, and I guess he's the one that can connect with Rom, and by killing Rom, oh my God, there's just so much to it, and it's really all speculation. But anyway, okay, so there is one enemy though, that it's funny because I was just done saying that I think every enemy in the game has a meaning to it. And I think this next enemy does have a meaning, but it's not what we expect. This is the giant spiders, okay?
Yeah.
They're there because people hate spiders. You have to have spiders in a Souls game.
I agree, yeah.
I bet they're like, okay, we're going to fill this with spiders. And then they're like, okay, why? And it's like, because people hate them. So what does that have to do with the story? Well, nothing. People hate spiders. Although, who knows?
Well, that's kind of funny that you mentioned it real quick, because the link you sent me with all the close-up pictures and looking at this Wikipedia page, I think they're called Nightmare Apostles, which is quite a specific name for just what is a garden variety spider. They're just black spiders. There's nothing that special about them. But that's just the fact that they have such a specific
that is a very
name.
Good point.
They're not called like Nightmare Spider or just Black Spider. Nightmare Apostle. So I don't know what that means. I don't know how it ties in, but it definitely has a greater meaning, and that's a great point to bring them up.
Yeah, and you know what? And then it makes me think there's that small part where you actually come across the spiders, but with human heads.
Yes.
And then at one point, you come across patches, which is one. So it's almost like, were they either taking spiders and turning them into people, or maybe there really is a meaning to the spiders, to the Nightmare Apostles. Yeah. Well, okay. Again, lore could be not one podcast, not two, but probably a whole series.
Yeah, probably like 10.
Yeah, we're done with that. I guess that's it for the Bloodborne Bestiary episode, unless there's anything else we need to bring up about enemies in the games.
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of stuff pretty in depth. I had a lot of notes. I went over all my notes.
Yes.
I'll just say as a closing, I think the enemies are great. Like we said, nothing lazy. Everything's detailed. They all look great. They all serve back into the lore in some way or another. And Bloodborne in general has probably, I think, the best lore of the 4 games. So, just great enemies.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. And we didn't even really touch on, this could be another podcast, but Chalice Dungeons. If anyone listening hasn't played the Chalice Dungeons, you'll find other enemies there that aren't in the main game. Yeah. But it's still lore based, which is cool.
It is.
Very cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching at any time. If you guys want to like comment and let us know maybe what you want us to cover, let us know. We'll gladly do that. There's so much we could cover, but we just don't know what order we want to cover it in. So
yeah, we've been going really, I think pretty randomly. Every week at some point around midweek, maybe even Thursday or Friday, we email each other and say, what do you want to do? And then we kind of figure it out. Adam writes up the show notes, and then we we usually fill in our notes and all that. But it's been pretty random, just about. I mean, we might not even know what next Monday's episode is going to be about, or next Tuesday's episode is going to be about until like Sunday night. Yep. So, people, if you guys are either watching on YouTube, watching on SoundCloud, or listening on SoundCloud, listening, I maybe a tiny bit drunk, listening on.
That's all right. iTunes. Yep.
Yeah, on iTunes or on
iTunes,
on your Blue Gamer site. Leave questions, comments, criticism. Tell us we suck. Yeah. Tell us we're awesome.
Criticism. Just tell us where we were wrong.
I would love to interact with Souls fans, because I have a couple friends on Instagram who are Souls fans that I've talked to, and it's just a lot of fun to talk Souls, and that's why we started this podcast in the first place 9 weeks ago, episode 9. That's pretty good.
That is
talking Souls. I could ramble on about Souls for 100 hours without a problem.
I do it by myself.
Yeah, like, I'm the only one. Yeah.
I'm just rambling to myself.
It's easy.
I know.
It really is.
Great. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one next week.
Yep. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace out.